Tervetuloa Fysioterapiaa liikkeellä podcastin jakson numero 61, tällaisen bonusmateriaalin pariin. Tämä nimenomainen jakso numero 61 käsittelee eturistisiden vammojen hoitoa ja kuntoutusta ja sitä, miltä se näyttää Suomessa nyt vuonna 2024. Tässä jaksossa mun vieraana on hyvä kollega Einari Kurittu, jonka kanssa me keskustellaan eturististen vammojen hoidosta ja kuntoutuksesta, mutta tietynlaisena kimmokkeena tälle jaksolle toimi tämä artikkeli, joka ilmestyi Hesarissa tässä helmikuun puolivälissä ja jossa teemana oli FC Hongan naisten jalkapallojoukkueen tällainen tietynlainen eturististen vammojen suma. Haastateltavana tässä artikkelissa oli heidän päävalmentaja Omar Adlani, ja mä pyysin Omaria mukaan myös tähän podcastiin kertomaan valmentajan näkökulmaa siitä, että miltä jalkapalloympäristössä tämä eturististen vammojen tilanne ja tällainen tietynlainen epidemia näyttää. Nyt tässä videossa näkyy tämä mun Omarin kanssa käymä runsaan 20 minuutin keskustelu kokonaisuudessaan, ja koska Omarin tausta on Algeriassa ja Kanadassa, niin tämä keskustelu on käyty englanniksi. Ja tästä keskustelusta mä oon myös sitten ottanut tällaisen tietynlaisen tiivistelmän mukaan tähän varsinaiseen podcast-jaksoon, joka löytyy Spotifysta, Apple ja Google podcasteista sekä Suplasta. Fysioterapiaa liikkeellä on podcastin nimi. Käy kurkkaamassa ja kuuntelemassa tämä jakso. Sieltä löytyy paljon hyvää ja tärkeää asiaa eturististen vammojen hoidosta, kuntoutuksesta ja koko siitä prosessista. Mutta nyt pitämättä puheita päästään ääneen Omar Adlani ja hänen näkemykset eturististen vammatilanteesta naisten jalkapallossa. So, Omar, thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you're the head coach for FC Honka women's first team playing in Kansallinen Liiga, and I'd assume when playing football in the highest level, the team is in the news quite often. But in mid-February this year, you were in the headlines of Helsingin Sanomat because of rather unfortunate events in the team. Can you tell us briefly what's happened and what's been going on?
Yeah, like you said, it's not the best way to be in that news, especially coming from that big newspaper. You always want to be in a positive light shown there, but in my opinion and how I see it, it is a negative news. But I think a lot of positive will come from it and has already come from it, just talking about the issue. So yeah, we've had some unfortunate injuries with the ACLs, which isn't new to the female football world and not new to us either. But having 3 in such a short amount of time did kind of catch some attention, and why is it happening? And so yeah, that's kind of what's been happening with us, and we're just trying to figure out the solution.
So if I'm correct, you had 2 ACL injuries in the last season, and now, like you said, 3 during a quite short period of time in the beginning of this year. Are these injuries, like you said, we know that this team is unfortunately big in women's football especially, but what about these injuries in your team? Have they been contact injuries or non-contact within a match or in training, or what kind of injuries are these?
Yeah, they've been both contact and non-contact, and they've happened in trainings, both in our environment and also during national team environments when we send them out there. One has happened there, and it also has happened during the games. So it's all over the place.
So no like common something thing with those. Of course, like this is a devastating news for the individual in question, and of course for the team, like 5 players out, or maybe not 5 players at the same time. But anyway, it's quite a burden with the injuries. How are the players? How are you? How is the team at the moment? Like what is the atmosphere in the team?
I mean, when it happened in the first couple of weeks, it was definitely difficult for the players who were injured. And then the players who also had to see it happening, they were a little bit on edge. Of course, me as well and the staff just kind of not panicking, but a little bit stressed as to what can we do differently. And we kind of tore up everything and just see what can we do differently, asking everybody, asking advice, asking just any kind of feedback on what we can do. And little by little, of course, the players now who have been injured are slowly getting back and kind of processing it and dealing with it. And now the rehab portion starts for them and the acceptance, which has happened quite quick, to be fair to them. They're quite strong mentally, and then our players as well have been a little bit careful with everything. And now as the confidence gets back, they will start to believe more and more in themselves. And then on the staff point of view, we want to just get as much answers as we can and try to do things the best way that we can. And everything that we've kind of asked about and what the feedback has been was our programs look good, everything looks good. It just has been bad luck. So
bad luck for sure, but too bad luck, to be honest. But you have done all the injury prevention training and all of this. How has it been looking like during the last season or so? You've done maybe the FIFA 11 Plus or some similar program or what's it been like?
I mean, if I walk you through what we do is we test the players right away in the first week of preseason. We go through the testing, we check their strength levels, and then we develop a program based on that for them. We test them again about 2 or 3 more times during the season just to see how their development is going and if we should change anything. And then we have strength training in the gym 3 times a week. We use injury prevention exercises, activations every warm-up. We monitor the load. We use Polar to monitor the distance, the high-speed runs, the heart rate. So we covered all the bases. So we've had 0 muscle injuries in 3 years. So something's working, but we've had too many ACLs. So something's not.
So, and that's definitely a good sign without any muscle injuries. Have you had any other serious injuries besides the ACLs?
Fractured ankle, and then of course concussions. But that's another big topic that maybe you should cover at some point, because that might be a bigger topic than the ACLs, because that's happening too often without really any notice around it. But that's maybe for another podcast.
Yeah, definitely, and a big theme, like you said. But like for musculoskeletal injuries, like the ACLs are definitely the biggest ones in that field, of, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah.
So the training load, you mentioned you've been following that. Have you done players' subjective evaluation of their readiness or state of mind through maybe XPS or whatever system, or how's this looking?
Yeah, we did that. We did that in the first couple seasons, and then we kind of took it away just because it wasn't. We found that some players would maybe put yes just to be ready more to play. So I thought maybe it wasn't. Everybody wants to play, so I didn't see how you have to be extremely honest with those things. And then we just decided, okay, let's just focus on the data that we have on the progressive loading. So that is something that we did, and then of course the same issues came. We had we also did it when I was a talent coach about 5 years ago, and we had ACLs then as well. Yeah. So it didn't really matter.
So now that you've been dealing with this issue and you've been asking around and talking with people, and maybe lost a couple of nights sleep because of it. Like, have you found any clues or any like things to consider differently than you have before?
I would say, first, I mean, I hate that we say that it's just bad luck. I think if I went to a casino and played roulette, I would have better luck than what they're having right now. So I think we have to find some solution. In my kind of view, what I've seen just from hearing and talking to other players is it might be something with the mental state, some mental stressor or mental. If, for example, if we travel for a long time, 4 or 5 hours, and then we have to play, that might affect some players. It might affect some other players differently. For example, some of them happened during exam week. It was an exam week. Those could also happen, some outside mental stressors. So it could be something outside, kind of a mental stressor or mental fatigue that could happen. That's the only correlation I found with all of them. It wasn't menstrual cycle. It wasn't the pitch. It wasn't anything like that. So that's the only thing that I could really find that affected it.
And this is of course highly individual thing. Like
yes.
you would need to kind of be on top of every player's mind and what's happening with their social life and all of this. So not an easy job of course for the coach as well. Or how do you see it?
Yeah, or anyone actually, because something small could affect somebody. What I think is small might be very big for somebody else. What something is big for that person might be not so big for me. So it's very, very hard to tell, and you have to have somebody, maybe a professional there on them and guiding them, and maybe somebody to talk to all the time, which I don't think anybody has the resources for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately so. But like you said, like no one thing from the physical data that you've gathered, like maybe those players were thriving in the tests and still got the injury. Am I correct, or how did it look?
Yeah, I mean, one of our players last season was, I mean, everything was, she was the fittest player, the strongest player, one of our technically and more kind of agile players and coordinated. And then it happened to her on natural grass on Tapiola, which is one of the best grass fields in Finland. So everything was perfect, just that. So I have no idea again.
Yeah. So this is definitely something that hopefully we'll get more info and more insights from the research, of course, in the field in the upcoming years. But for so far we don't have any like clue what's happening with this epidemic. Like it's been all over the world actually. Have you been talking to your colleagues internationally with this? I know at least in England it's been quite a big theme as well that they've been talking about. Have been in contact to England, to any one of your colleagues?
No, I mean, I haven't talked to anybody yet directly about it. I was going to ask about it once I do visit. I will be visiting clubs there at some point, so I want to ask. I want to ask about it and see what it's like. Of course, I have friends in Canada who are physiotherapists and asking their opinion, but again, with them, it hasn't been happening so much there from what they've seen. They're seeing it a lot more here. But again, nobody has really come out to really tell me there's a specific way to do things.
Yeah, but like you said, like the conditions have been different: natural grass, artificial grass. At one point, there was discussion around female football shoes, but I don't know if this is something you've been looking into. Do you have any ideas about that one?
Yeah,
team.
I looked at it. I looked at, even there's this new shoe that the stud moves as the player moves and stuff like that. So there's always new things being developed. But then again, if you look at Arsenal, Chelsea, they're playing on the best fields in the world. So again, how do we? It could be the shoe, it could be that, but I don't want to put it into just an external factor. We have to look at internally first. There's something there, because we have to change something internally before we start looking, oh, maybe it's the wind, or maybe it's the sun, or maybe it's that. So we have to look at internally what we can do.
Yeah, and for sure it's like this, and most probably this is so complex this whole thing that we cannot point to any one direction and find the guilty part from there. It's a combination of many things, as you mentioned. Yeah. So one thing I was wondering, like, you've had these injuries, and hopefully we'll find a way to prevent these in the future better than now. But what about at the moment, like with the injured players? I'm always concerned. How is it with them, and because they are team players, and with the injury, sometimes they are left out of the team, or they feel left out of the team, even if they are not. But it's sort of their pack, so to speak. So how have you guys been playing with this? Like, how's the communication with the players that are injured, and how are they doing their rehab? Are they with the team, without, or on their own, or how does it look like?
Yeah, luckily, I mean, in our group of players, we have such a strong group together that it's quite good. The players are always part of the team. They're always around the team. They will come to the rehab during the team training. So luckily we have really good facilities also in Esport. So the field is here, the gym is right beside the field, so they can watch the training at the same time. I try to communicate with the players at least once or twice a week just to see how they're feeling, if we can help in any way. Our physio is there to also do the rehab with them during our trainings, and if something they need, he's there with them. So we try to include them in every session, and then as the rehab progresses, I just ask the physio, what can she do? And then, okay, she can maybe do passing drill now. Okay, then we try to include her in something, maybe without contact, and then start to add. So I always want to include that player inside the team, always.
But what I'm hearing from you is that the communication is key with this one, like with the physio, with the player, and the coaching staff, so everybody's on the same page on what's happening. What do you specifically expect from the physio or the medical team, like as a head coach, when these players are out injured and doing the rehab? What are the main things?
I mean, in my experience, the physio is the most important part of the staff. And if I can be honest for a moment about what I've experienced here in Finland, is coming from Canada, I'm shocked at how unvalued this job is here. This is just me speaking, what I've seen. So I expect a lot from the physios, and they are the only person who can help the player get back. It's not me, it's not anybody, it's not even the doctor, sorry to say, but it is the physio. And they need to get them back to their dream, which is playing. So I expect them to evaluate the player, monitor the player, be by the player's side, do the rehab, instruct the player, instruct me, and then be that player's almost best friend for that entire time, because they have to go through that process with them. So this is just my experience from what I've had in the past, and I think they have had the most important role at a club. And if we speak maybe outside of sport, in a day-to-day life, non-athletes need them just as much to live kind of a normal, healthy life. So that's just kind of my take on it, that it's the most important role at the club for that. So I expect a lot from them, even though they might not be getting compensated for what they should be.
Yeah, for sure. The resources in football or in female football are not great enough for like getting enough physio resources in that would be needed, and definitely would help the players as well, and and the coaches and everyone in the team.
Yeah, and I think it's everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. So how does the returning back to sports, returning to play process look like after this kind of injury in your team? Like you said, physio is in charge, and they let you know how to proceed and what are the steps. But when they are like coming back to training, and maybe even after that, when they are coming to play, are you some kind of or somehow conscious about it, and a little bit like thinking about how to play them, or how does it look like from the coach's point of view?
I mean, like you said, the physio's in charge up until he or she can play 90 minutes. That physio is in charge. So as long as I get the okay, now that player is clear to play 90 minutes, then the physio is in charge. Okay, she can play 30 today. Okay, how can I include? Do I play her at the beginning or at the end, or how do I add maybe do I send her to a lower league to play an easier game to come up? So I just get how much time that player can be involved. Is it contact, non-contact? But the physio will tell me exactly, and I follow it. Some players try to sneak around it and try to get more, but I'm very strict about those, that the physio is in charge, and they let me know up until they gave me the 100% clear that, okay, they're good to go. Okay, now I can kind of have more freedom to pick how much he can play. But up until then, the physio takes care of that.
So, do you see it from the player that when they're coming back from the injury, like how they perform, and how does the playing style maybe differ from what it was before the injury? Are you picking up these kind of small signs from their actions?
I think it's different players have different ways of coming back. Some are completely 100% confident, and it takes them, they're just right into it. And then some are not, are a little bit still holding back the full 100% action. Even some now have been holding back after a year, and I can see it after a year that they're still holding back, which is fair. I mean, they have every right to be worried, but some are just, let's go 100%. Even if they're not even at 100% yet, they're fully ready to go.
Yeah, and this is also a thing that is highly individual for sure. But what about the re-injuries? Like, I'd assume that with those 3 or 3+2 from the last year, some of them have been re-injuries, re-ACL injuries as well. How's the case with those?
Just one of them, but it was a re-injury from a ACL from 2017 or 16. So it was a long time ago. So it was on the other leg. So she hurt one leg in 2017, and then last year hurt the opposite leg, and then just now hurt the leg again from 2017. So that's the only re-injury we've had so far.
So that's kind of good news, because from the research we know that there's a high prevalence for re-injuries after ACL injuries, and many times even more with the contralateral side, so the other one that was like first time injured. Yeah. So going to the season, there's a couple of months or so before the season begins. Are you changing something because of these ACL injuries with the way you work with the team, or how do you do your physical preparation before the training or before the season? What's your idea?
Yeah, I mean, we try not to change too much. Now we have our physio. Our physio now is taking care of the physical training as well, and just monitoring that and what we're doing. And we're not changing too much. I think now is just to keep going with what we've been doing, and maybe monitoring more the day after the game, maybe adding a few recovery things after the game. Then the next day, I think that's one thing that we're going to try doing, and seeing if we can maybe speed up the recovery a bit better before we get into the Monday. As you know, they're not professional athletes, so I can't ask them to be here all the time, 7 days a week. It would be much easier in that sense, where we can do the recovery together. And but I think that's something we want to take a look at more. And I think one thing from my point of view, I'm going to be a bit more aware and more asking a lot more how they are mentally before we get into any week or situation. And I think we have quite an open group that I'm making a big importance on how you're feeling is really important before you step on the field, because that'll affect a lot.
Thank you, Omar. I'm hoping all the best for you, for the team, for all of your players and those who are injured and away for the worst matches or for how long they are. I truly believe that you are doing an amazing job with all of this, and you're carrying quite a big burden in your shoulders with these injuries, but like there's no way of giving up, like just trying to push forward and trying to find the ways of doing things even better than now. And I'm truly hoping that you will find those ways and in the physio side of these things, we will try to improve as well and do our best to help you guys with this epidemic, if it's so to say. So I'm hoping you all the best for the season, and thanks for coming on to the podcast and share your insights of this matter.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think you're doing, a great service now with this, kind of putting a light on it. And the person you're going to speak to next, Einari, I think is one of the best in the field. So I hope that he can do. He's a top professional in the field, so I fully trust he will find a solution to this, and I hope he will get the resources he needs to pursue it. So thank you again for having me, and yeah, let's see how it goes.